Carl and Damon here from Games, Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's They Made What Into a Movie as we return to the Dead Space franchise with the second film, the last film of the animated franchise. It's Dead Space Aftermath 2011, American adult psychological science fiction horror film directed by Mike Dissa. Written by a team that included Brandon Almona and developed by Film Roman and Pumpkin Studios under the supervision of Electronic Arts. Of course, it was released direct-to-video on January 25th, the same day as the 2011 survival horror video game Dead Space 2 was published by EA.
Wow.
So you got both at the same time. Of course, this movie serves as a prequel to Dead Space 2. So in the timeline, it takes place after Dead Space 1, but before Dead Space 2. Obviously, it's an animation, so I'm just going to run you down some of the voice actors here. We have Gwendolyn Yo playing Isabella Cho, Christopher Judge playing Nicholas Kuttner, Ricardo Chavarria playing Alejandro Borges, Kurt Cornelius playing Nolan Strauss, and Peter Woodward as the lead interrogator. They are the main cast of this film. So, quick run through, because some of this Dead Space lore can be a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Basically, the events of Dead Space, a planet mining colony funded by the Church of Unitology, identified a marker, which is an object that is sacred to the Unitologists' belief they found on the planet Aegis 7. The marker is a human copy of an alien object that has a fatal influence over the Aegis 7 colony and the mining ship, the USG Ishimura, eventually causing an outbreak of reanimated mutated corpses referred to as necromorphs. Aftermath follows the accounts to EarthGov officials of 4 survivors from the USG O'Bannon, which was sent to investigate Aegis 7 after the events of Dead Space. After contact is lost with the O'Bannon, EarthGov sends another ship to investigate and recover 4 survivors. Security Officer Nicholas Kuttner, Engineer Alejandro Borges, Chief Science Officer Nolan Strauss, and Chief Medical Officer Isabella Cho. And en route to EarthGov base at the Titan Sprawl, Dead Space 2's location, each survivor gives their account, with EarthGov gathering intelligence for their own future marker project. That is what happens, basically.
Yep.
So, before the first is taken, we see the survivors have been damaged mentally by their experience on the O'Bannon. Kuttner is first to be taken, but he fights back as he doesn't want to be separated from his daughter, who only he can see. So you got that mental damage.
Yeah.
He's knocked out and dragged through the halls. Along the way, we see that he keeps seeing his young daughter, but with a bloody face. Kuttner is then strapped into a chair and asked questions by an interrogator. Kuttner refuses to answer, but the interrogator plays into his fears and makes him think he's being burned alive. This is enough for Kuttner to answer their questions, starting with who he is and what his role was on the O'Bannon. So we will stop here and talk about 2 important things.
Yep.
This film has 2 different animation styles. Both are different to the original. So first we have computer graphics, which is what we see in the current time, not memories. That is computer graphics, and shocked me when I first saw it around. I was like, why have they done that?
Yeah, I didn't get it at all.
I get it even less because in the flashbacks, it is animation.
Yeah.
Normal animation. Not as good as the original one, but still animation.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It makes no sense to me. Surely it would have been easier just to stick to
Stick
one
to
format.
one.
Yeah, one format, yeah.
But I'm also going to say, the animation, the computer graphic animation, I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, the original...
It looks so clean.
The original was perfect.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was like Starship Trooper style was for me. But then this one here, yeah, it just looks, I don't know, old. Like really, it looks like it's aged really badly.
Yeah, I would have put this animation on Roughneck style. It's that same style of computer graphics.
Yes.
The animation in the original, like, it had that dirty, grim look where you were going for like an adult because it was like adult content.
Yeah.
And we do get that with the animation in the flashbacks, but I just don't understand why I generally can't put my head around why you do this. Was it cheaper? Were you testing some things out, playing around? But my biggest problem with the computer graphics is that it looks so clean.
Yeah.
It looks so everything looks smooth. It's just weird to my eyes.
It's got to be cheaper, surely.
Right, it's got to be, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, Kuttner then tells the story of the mission at Aegis 7. We see Kuttner and Strauss interacting, the latter putting his foot in it by talking about Kuttner's daughter, finding out from Cho that his daughter died before this mission even took place. Notable that Stross is not unitology crazy here, even mentioning his son. Rin then comes along and tries to get Cho to come for some drinks, but she refuses. Omar and Nayam then offers to get a drink with Rin and she agrees. The rest of the important crew arrive in the room, including Commander Sajenko and Borges. The arrival of Captain Campbell brings silence and reveals their reason for going to Aegis 7. They're to stabilise the planet, holding its gravity in place. Something a lot of people around the table think is impossible. So if you don't know, this of course is the planet that Isaac Clarke fucked up at the end of Dead Space 1. And in fact, someone mentions that because everyone is dismissed except Stross, Cho, Kuttner and Rin. And he asks them what they've heard about Aegis 7 and they can speak freely. Rin recants the rumour of what Isaac did and the captain reveals the truth of the artifact here. The mission is to salvage what remains of the artifact on the planet. And the promise of a lot of credits is enough to convince the likes of Rin to do it. So yeah, money! The gravity stabilization team are dropped on the planet alongside the team that will be looking for the artifact shards. Landing on the planet, it is a bit of a hellscape. The planet won't last long. One group goes to make sure to stabilize a hole, while the other set out to sweep for marker fragments. Kuttner runs into some instability and calls Rin. His signal has been lost. He's then distracted by a possible piece of the marker and finds it. Holding it up immediately has an effect on him and his mind. He sees the full thing in front of him as a voice assails his mind. He then sees his daughter in the distance and chases after her. He then sees her getting her head cut off, and that has him drop to his knees. Rin comes through on the radio and tells them that they've been ordered back to the ship. The signal is weak, but he hears it and sets out. Before he can go again, though, his daughter calls to him again. Seeing that she is about to be attacked by a dark entity, he tries to stop it. However, it's just Rin. Together, they meet back up with the rest of the team and he tries to explain what he saw. From his POV, we see that he sees demons and is again distracted by his daughter. She's being attacked on the gravity marker. He fights off the rest, climbs, interrupting the crew working on it. He sees them as demons, so attacks them and ends up breaking the system. So yeah, that's Kuttner's part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good start, man.
Yeah, it tells us what we know. It builds on it. It kind of I like seeing what he sees.
Yeah, it's really clever.
And I like how it manipulates him into stopping, like destroying the machinery.
I mean, again, it does what the market does. It makes you go crazy and see things in this.
Yep.
Yeah.
When he comes to, he sees that he hurt one of the crew and Borges knocks him out. Sajenko then takes the marker piece from him before ordering Kuttner to be secured in the ship. He wakes up begging Rin and Stross to not leave his daughter behind. As they walk outside, he sees his daughter waving goodbye to him. Back in the interrogation room, Kuttner is put into cryosleep, but when freed from his bounds, starts to fight back. He manages to kill some of the guards and escape into the ship. Kuttner runs through the ship looking for his daughter and is shot, but is able to kill the guards. His daughter then walks down a hallway and Kuttner follows. She leads him to the bay doors as he collapses in a pool of blood. You can kind of see where this is going. Yeah. And it is pretty horrible. It is. It's just horrible, isn't it? She encourages him to get up from the other side of the outer doors, the ones that lead into space. This is all while a team of soldiers approach. Kuttner drags himself up, and as the soldiers reach him, he opens the airlock, blasting everyone out into space. We see him embrace his daughter, but then see the reality that he floats alone in space. Well, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, please. It's dark.
It's dark, but when I started, I thought it was like, wow, man.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but eerie, brilliant, and just really clever, you know.
Yeah.
It really shows you, if you're a fan of Dead Space, what the marker really does to you. You know?
Yeah, it's fucked up. The interrogator watches on a monitor before ordering Borges to be brought in. Stross tells him and Cho that Kuttner is dead, something he knows because they are all one. So Stross is very much, hey, we're all one. But he's not crazy about it, which is in the game how he kind of comes across as well. Soldiers come in and we Kuttner Borges in the chair experience his worst nightmare, being overrun by spiders. He agrees to cooperate and is asked about the shard. The story of the planet picks up with him and his team going to work on the gravity of the planet. He tells his men that he's suspicious of the other team. The work is cut out for them, as the planet is not holding up, but they're able to stabilise it for a while. We see one of them playing Dante's Inferno. This is a reference to the fact that a large part of the team that worked in this movie also worked in the Dante's Inferno movie 2, which we will be covering in the future.
Good.
Later, Borges recants how he lost his arm. A mining accident cost lives. The trio then talk about unitology, as one of them is a believer. Before they go any further, the planet begins to go on a meltdown, and this is where Kuttner attacks. The events play out, but from Borges' perspective. So we've already seen it, but we get it from Borges' perspective.
Yep.
The man Kuttner hit, dies, and the stabilizer begins to fail. The machine is going to blow up, so everyone makes a run for it. And that's it for the planet, as everyone just legs it for the ship. It's like, we can't stop this. It's going to blow up.
Yep.
Get out. However, we lose Rin when the ground collapses under her and she's burnt up in lava.
Yeah,
that came out of nowhere. I was a bit like, oh, you know.
I was shocked to hear.
Yeah. So Jenko then gets trapped and throws the marker fragment case to Borges, telling him to take it back with them before he burns up too.
Brutal, man.
That's brutal.
Through the mask,
Yeah, like it burns and then out. Yeah, horrible. The remaining few are in a lot of trouble. Ulmer is then crushed by a falling rock. That came out of nowhere. Also, I want to sort of say, like, yeah, but you also, like, they show you, you know, it's like, whoa. They then get back to the ship and are just about managed to take off as Aegis 7 begins to explode. We see other ships leaving, some aren't so lucky, getting hit by fragments of the planet. The O'Bannon is now making a run for it because it's too close to the planet. It's going to be hitting a shockwave. So Borges pushes the ship as hard as possible to catch up and land. And they manage to get aboard, but it's a crash landing, that kind of situation. The O'Bannon isn't able to get away, though, and is hit by the shockwave of the exploding planet, and it causes massive damage. So, yeah, it's a cool action sequence.
It is, yeah.
It is.
Definitely, yeah.
On board, Borges refuses to fix the shockwave drive until he's told why the marker piece is so important. So, basically, his cousin, his family, his friends, why did they die for this piece of marker? Cho gives him a brief rundown of what happened on the planet, and he tells them to follow him. This is the captain she's talking to. In another room, he reveals that it's worth so much money. Basically, look, Borges is worth so much money you can take care of your dead cousin's family. That is a terrible thing to say.
I mean, the captain is a cool character. I like him, and the guy plays him, but man, what a fucking shit thing to say.
It's a really bad thing to say. And rightfully, Borges punches the captain. As everyone tries to calm him down, the ship shakes as they are hit by debris from the planet. The captain orders him to fix the drive, basically. Otherwise, listen, you're going to do it. You'd be in the brig if I didn't need you. And you're going to do it because if you don't, we're all going to die. Which Borges is like, and walks off. Back in the interrogation room, Borges reveals he never actually came into contact with the marker piece, which we see was true. The interrogator is like, okay then, cool, you can go free. And tells him he'll be going home. Borges is like, really? Oh, cool. Alas, it is a lie. He walks away, he's shot in the back of the head.
That was brutal, man.
You didn't have to do that. No, either as well.
What a fucking dick thing to do, man.
Like, why even give him the impression he's going to live? Just like shoot him in the chair, right?
Yeah, it's brutal, man.
The interrogator orders Strauss to be brought in, and we see him being buried alive in a coffin. He has claustrophobia, and the interrogator has taken advantage of that. His fear is being used against him by the interrogator. But here's the thing, I didn't get this, because Strauss doesn't have a problem playing ball, so why are you even bothering?
Yeah.
So it kind of implies to me the interrogator might enjoy it.
Yes.
Strauss reveals he was on the O'Bannon for a secret reason, to study the marker pieces. He then tells us what happened when he did look into it. Firstly, he saw his wife and baby boy. When she asks about his government work, he refuses to tell her anything before leaving to study the marker. His wife accuses him of having an affair with his scientist colleague, but Strauss walks away not caring. So you can tell her marriage is in trouble.
Yeah.
He then visits the captain, who's been drinking heavily and has started to hear voices from the shard. He demands to know what Strauss knows, but again, Strauss is secretive. The captain basically take the shard, keep it in your lab, and I want to see it. We then see that Strauss and his assistant are scanning the marker piece. It reveals the marker's writings, and Strauss is amazed. He then has a telepathic connection to the marker and is able to recant the markings to start to write them on the wall. Cho then arrives, and Strauss reveals that the markings are in an alien language that reveal DNA codes and could alter humanity forever. So, you know, we're going to get into that stuff.
Yep.
Cho interrupts him by kissing him, though.
So obvious.
It seems as though they have been having an affair, and they have sex.
Yeah.
We don't see that, but we have sex, yeah. After Strauss has talked to the captain, he's worked out it can reanimate dead tissue and transform the being into something else. He also knows that most humans will be driven mad by coming into contact with it. Only a few seem to be resistant. If a person is already dealing with issues a la Kuttner and his dead daughter, it's impossible to resist. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all stuff we understand.
Covers the entire games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stross suggests a god made it, but then sees the captain covered in marker writing. Later, he's working and sees a nightmarish vision of death, something he records, suggesting that the knowledge is worth it. He goes to a morgue to get a test subject using the marker signal to repair the flesh of the dead man. However, the lights go out, and when they come back on, the dead man is gone. Stross goes into the holding room to see if the man is under the bed, but he's not. And when he turns around, the man is behind him and starts to strangle Stross. But it's a hallucination. And we see Stross is strangling himself.
Yeah.
Very Dead Space.
Yeah, definitely.
However, he realises too late that he opened the holding room. And in the shadows, the reanimated man growls. Stross' assistant comes in and is butchered by the necromorph. Stross runs away being pursued by the monster.
Yeah.
So we're off and rolling now with necromorph territory.
Yep, definitely.
But also, this is what I think is really good about this film. How it goes deeper with the marker side of things.
Yes.
Because with the room open, the marker signal spreads through the ship.
Yep.
It can now communicate and move through the ship as we see corpses in the morgue beginning to move. Stross runs into some engineers and hides nearby, watching as the necromorph butchers them. He continues to run, getting in contact with the captain. But the captain is busy talking to Borges. Borges is claiming that it's near impossible to fix the drive, but before they can get into how sassy he is, because he is a sassy motherfucker, the ship begins to fall apart with the necromorphs attacking the engine room and spreading through the ship. Blood and guts, baby!
Yep, definitely.
Stross runs back to his home to his wife and child. He is suffering under the influence of the marker and is attacked by a monstrous version of his baby and his wife. And we reach what I think is the film's darkest and most, oh, that's horrible moment.
Yep.
Because Cho arrives and we see that they were human and he just slaughtered his wife and baby.
Yep.
But not only that, during this we see from Stross's POV, and yes, they look monstrous, but every so often you break and hear the sound of the voice, and you hear the woman go, why, and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they show you the mangled corpses. It's like, you gits, guys.
I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure in the actual game of Dead Space, so he tells you about this scene. He tells you about what happened to his wife.
It might make sense because, no, is he still in denial? Because
I think he talks about it, but I don't think he says that he killed him. I'm sure he talks about it. I don't know why I've got
I feel I remember seeing what Isaac confronts him about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Stross turns around and says, no, they're locked in a room. And then he starts to remember and goes crazy.
Yeah.
Because that ties into this where he refuses to believe he did what he did.
Yes.
Because back in the interrogation room, Stross is convinced that his family are safe in their quarters where he locked them.
Yeah.
The interrogator demands to know where his family is over and over again, electrify him, and Stross flat out refuses to remember. He's then told he won't be killed. His mind is too important. It came in direct contact with the marker. He's to be put inside a coffin-like case and wheeled out, which obviously scares Stross being claustrophobic. The interrogator then orders Cho to be brought in, the last person. So this is not a long movie. It's only about 71 minutes long. We see that the ship is approaching the sprawl. Cho is having a rough time with the interrogator, and she keeps telling him that Stross has the answers. Or the interrogator basically, all right, I don't want to know about that then. I want to know about your affair with Stross. And that's what we get into. We then cut to them having had sex, an affair that they've been having for months. She has fallen in love with him though, but the shadows begin to change him. Listening to him after being in bed, she suggests he comes to sickbay to get some psycho scans, but he refuses and tells her to leave. She then goes to check out Cutner, who was in the sickbay, and Cutner, so Cutner's madness is maybe scarier.
Yes.
He's so calm, but he's convinced his daughter's alive and well. That's quite scary.
He seems like a completely normal person.
In fact, he'll end up helping him fight necromorphs.
Yes.
Like stuff like that. It reminds me of the guy from the first film, the Native American, who was very calm, kind, and nice, but believed in unitology.
Yep.
Yeah, that. Sometime after, Cho and Cutner are moving through the ship. It being transformed by the marker. No, I've skipped a bit. Later, Cho is talking to a group of doctors as they head into the morgue, finding the bodies gone, and the medical staff who were inside are now dead. In front of them, one transforms and the group are able to escape, locking the door. Cho ends up in the same room as Cutner as a necromorph breaks in, but Cho releases Cutner, who kills it. Sometimes after, Cho and Cutner are moving through the ship, which is being transformed by the marker, that kind of imagery.
Yep.
They find their way to Stross's room, and this is where she finds him having killed his family. He tries to talk to her calmly, but she runs away in fear. Outside, all hell is breaking loose as the necromorphs are killing everyone. The captain arrives and Stross tells him that this is what humanity is meant to become. Everyone's like, shut up, Stross. That old thing.
Yeah, psychopath.
The group get into an event. Cutner leading the way as he's chasing after his kid. Borges is absolutely right. Are we really following this guy? But yeah, you know, you are.
Yep.
They end up above Stross's lab and jump down. Below, Cutner is grabbed by Borges, who still holds a grudge. Borges reveals that the drive hasn't been fixed as the necromorphs have overrun it. Stross is still trying to be nice to Cho, completely unaware of what he did. The captain then demands to know what is happening, and Stross starts to talk about being one. A nearby officer hears that, having heard it from unitology, and she calls it convergence. Stross reveals that the signal the marker piece is spitting out is responsible, and the only way to stop it is to destroy it. Yet it is pretty much indestructible. He says they would have to throw it into something like a star. And Borges suggests, well, what about a reactor core? And Stross says, yeah, you know what? That might work. So Stross isn't completely gone yet.
No.
He's okay with this. The captain says that is the plan, and they'll fight their way to the engine room. It's either that or sit and wait for the ship to be destroyed by the debris. Yeah, It makes sense. As they make their way through the ship, the growths are spreading, and they're attacked by one of the behemoths. One of the big ones.
Yep.
More necromorphs, more death, and eventually they make it to the engine room. However, the beasties are right behind them. A piece of debris then slams into the hull and sucks out the necromorphs and a random dude that was with them.
Yep.
The rest are able to get inside, Cutner saved by Borges, and get ready to seal the door.
I like that scene there.
Should be noted that unfortunately this is predictable because of who we know lives.
Of course.
Who they actually have in custody.
Yeah, it is. But I like the fact that Cutler saved Borges. The fact that obviously, even though he's lost his mind, he's still there.
No, Borges saved Cutner. Borges saves Cutner. Which shows that he'd grudge, like he is not.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to let him die for it. He uses his robot arm. Yeah. I know what you're saying. So yeah, basically the power is out, so they can't close the door from the inside. Someone is going to have to stay outside, operate it manually, and close the door, which the captain volunteers for. I was like, should the captain really be volunteering for that? You're the captain. Might be necessary.
Captain goes down with the ship.
But the ship isn't going down.
Well, yeah.
That's not. We're not at that stage yet. I knew you were going to say that, and it's like, no, I won't accept that. Be honest, man. It should be someone who's a little bit less important.
Maybe guilty.
Someone less important. Maybe guilt. Maybe
because he brought the mark on the ship. He knew about it all.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, but he didn't. Well, all right. No, fair. He did about the money. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe. He gives Borges the marker piece and tells him to send it back to hell. He goes outside, closes the door, and uses a grenade to blow himself and the remaining necromorphs up. So cheers for damaging the ship more. Inside, they head to the core, but before they can do anything, they're attacked. They then see the roof of the room is crawling with necromorphs. It's a battle, too many necromorphs to deal with, and the shard case is knocked to the floor. Stross, standing to the side, picks it up and opens it, and he's hypnotised by it. Cho breaks free and runs up to him. He tells her that it's too important to destroy, but she punches him, which I did like, and throws it into the core where it is destroyed. Have you ever seen the end of Lord of the Rings?
I was going to say that.
It's the ring.
Yeah.
It's the ring.
And he's Sam didn't punch Frodo.
Yeah, no, yeah, but Stross is Frodo. Yeah. Cho is Gollum.
Yeah, Gollum.
Yeah. The resulting eruption of lightning spreads to the necromorphs, destroying them all. Back with the interrogator, he is disappointed that she didn't come into direct contact with it, and she realises that they knew what might happen with the core. With the marker piece. She's freed, and it reveals that they have docked at the sprawl, and the overseer arrives. For some reason, he's nice to her, and asks her to come with him. Cho leaves with him, as he tells the interrogator that he did a good job before giving the guards a look, and guess who gets killed?
I knew straight away. As soon as he gave the guard a nod.
Yeah, the guards shoot the interrogators in the back of the head. Because basically what they're trying to do is clean house.
Yep.
Remove everyone who might know things. The overseer is talking to Cho about the importance of the mark and how they might be able to control its power. They just need time, basically. It turns out that he needs a cover story, as the public are getting wind of these issues. You know, this many people missing, ships being blown up, Aegis 7.
Yep.
You're going to have to find some way. He wants Cho to work with them, but she refuses. And the lift doors open and she's dragged out and strapped down in the bed. I was like, look, principles or not, that was a really dumb move.
Yeah, just disagree with it and then try and escape.
The problem is I don't think any of them ever really realised how much of a threat they were in. Anyway, it seems as though she's going to be used as the cover story now. And on the sprawl, we see a news report that says Cho was a terrorist who attacked the Ishimura, the Oban, and the Aegis 7. They even have footage of her shooting a gun.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's good.
They covered literally everything. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, proper stuff.
Part of a terrorist group. That's really good. We then see Stross is brought into the overseer in his pod. The overseer mentions that Stross is one of 2 who came into the contact with the marker. The other, only some random engineer.
Yep, nobody.
And we see Stross is loaded into a slot as the camera pans to the next slot next to him, and we see the marker. The name marker says Isaac Clarke, ending Dead Space Aftermath and the Dead Space movie franchise story. We haven't had a movie in 11 years. We're not likely to get any more.
I don't know, but it's a shame.
But we are, remember, do not forget, folks, we are rebooting this franchise. Next year, we do have Dead Space, and it is real, 100%. You've got your teaser out there.
Oh, wait, man.
We'll look forward to that first full trailer. Aftermath. It is a good movie. It is another good Dead Space movie.
Yep.
But for me, it's lesser. It's not as good as Downfall. Mm-hmm. And for these reasons. The animation. Both animations are worse. And one I particularly don't like. And I don't understand why you jump between the 2. Second, I don't love the way the story plays out. I found it very confusing at first. Yep. I was baffled by the names. I was trying to keep up with people. Eventually, when it gets like to the last person's story and it's all linked up,
yep,
I was happy with it. But the first and second part, I really struggled with. I really struggled to keep up with it, and I didn't enjoy that. Next thing I don't like, it rushes it. It rushes all the Necromorph stuff. All of it.
Yeah.
In fact, they almost seem crap compared to the first one, where they just run for the ship, shoot, get somewhere else, and so on. The Necromorphs don't look as good.
No. I mean, graphics-wise, yeah, obviously the first one was better. But for me, this one was more a story-based one. Because obviously they had to fill in a lot of gaps. I
would agree with you. Story, when you say story-based, only when it comes to the marker itself. Like, if I agree with you, right? Let's say Downfall is about the marker's effects on the bodies, necromorphs, and the monsters it creates.
Yep.
This is about this is the scientific side of the marker.
Yes. Yep.
Where we get a lot more detail about the signal, the writing, and what it might mean. I agree with that. That's a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily make it an interesting film to watch.
No, of course not. I mean, I would have wanted to see more necromorphs.
Agreed. Just a little more, not too much more, but maybe a little bit more. See, I don't even know how I'd want it to play out.
Do you think that they also might have had the same thought of like, okay, our graphics is not as good as the first as our first film,
yeah,
so maybe we'll limit
what we can do.
Yeah, keep the necromorphs out of it as much as possible.
Agreed, but I also think they were probably very acutely aware this has to lead into Dead Space 2.
Yes.
You can't have a full-on necromorph outbreak. Mm-hmm. It's got to have a limit, right?
Yeah,
you can't. You've got to be careful how you do it. You've got to. That's why your Bannon is blown up at the start of the film, like that kind of thing. But I think it works as a nice second piece to Downfall. Yeah. You watch Downfall and a lot of Aftermath, and if you know the games, these slot in really nicely as extra content.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was overseen by
EA,
obviously
and Visceral Games.
Yes, so they obviously approved. I know they obviously enjoyed it, but it's clear that the directors and the people who starred in this were fans of these games.
Yeah, there's passion in it.
Yes.
It comes through, doesn't it?
100%.
It does, but I find that with a lot of the Dead Space media. I would also recommend reading some of the Dead Space books. They are, like, one of them's a prequel to Unitology, about the creation of Unitology. That's really good shit and stuff like that. So I would definitely advise you do stuff like that, and there's comics and things like that. Maybe we'll cover some of that in the future in a sort of different video. But for now, Dead Space Aftermath, it's another good Dead Space movie. I think that's more than good enough.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we've covered a lot of movie to game adaptions, and these two are literally doing my top 10 easy.
Ooh, Downfall top 10, Aftermath top 20 for me. There you go. What do you reckon? You got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?